Hi everyone, welcome back to Life with RA Plus. In my last video, we talked about my C-section, and in today's video, I'll be sharing my left hip replacement story. So let's get into it. So I know I haven't uploaded a video in a while. Life has been a little hectic recently. Steven started a graveyard position, so I'm very busy in the morning. So in the morning, I'm making breakfast for Charlie and then making lunch for Steven and Charlie. So when Steven wakes up, he has lunch, and then I got to start dinner early so he can eat before he leaves, and then he can have, I can have his lunch ready for when he leaves. And then in between, I have to make sure the laundry's washed so he has clean clothes for when he goes to work. So in the mornings, it's kind of hectic for me. And I'm still adjusting to my new routine. So that's why I haven't uploaded a video recently. And I could do it when he leaves, but since it's been getting darker early, since, daylight savings, it's kind of hard to film because when it's nighttime, you don't get that natural light and you just see the ring light and it has just like this big shadow behind me, and I don't really like that. So that's one update. Another update is I went to go see my rheumatologist, and they're going to start me on some new medications. So, well, not really new, kind of, okay. So they're going to start me on Orencia. So as you guys know, I've been taking Enbrel, and this time they're going to start me on Orencia, which can be through IV or they have a new self-injection. We're going to try self-injection first. So if that doesn't show any improvements, we'll try IV. And if that doesn't show any improvements, we'll go ahead and try something else. But I'm not too worried because I'm sure with the new medication, I might have a good reaction to it. So I'm excited for that. My Enbrel, I do get my medicine home delivered. So when I go pick up the Orencia, I'm going to ask them if they can deliver that to me as well. So hopefully that works out. I'll also be starting sulfasalazine, and they gave me a stomach coater just to protect my stomach, my intestines from all the medications I'm taking. And they told me to try taking half of the Plaquenil a day because I did inform them that the Plaquenil was still hurting my stomach. So, and I wasn't taking it every day because it was hurting my stomach, but they told me try taking half every day, see if that helps. If not, they'll get me started on something else. But yeah, that's pretty much my life update right now. So let's get into the video. So a couple things I forgot to mention in my previous right hip replacement video is that I almost had a bilateral hip replacement. They were going to replace both my hips at the same time. And the reason why I didn't end up getting that was because they have special operating tables for each procedure. So that table happened to be broken down. So that is why I did not get a bilateral hip replacement. Another thing that I forgot to mention was that I got a posterior hip replacement. So in the beginning, when we first talked about hip replacements, I was supposed to get an anterior hip replacement, which means this is my hip, and they were going, anterior is when they go in through the front, they make an incision through the front and they replace it that way. So you lay on this special table that I'm telling you guys about, and it brings your leg down, and it makes the joint easier to pop out, I'm guessing. And I mean, you can watch YouTube videos on them because that's what I did before the surgery. So yeah, just a little, graphic warning there. And the reason why I didn't end up getting an anterior hip replacement was because what happened was one of the operating rooms where that table was in was not available. So they were asking me if I can come back next week to do my hip replacement. And I was telling them, well, I'm already scrubbed down. I had already scrubbed. I had my cap and gown on. I had my socks. My grandma came from out of town and she was ready to take care of me. So I told them, well, would you guys be able to do a posterior hip replacement right now instead of the anterior? And they checked with the doctor and he said, okay. So that's what I ended up getting. I ended up getting a posterior hip replacement instead of an anterior hip replacement. Now, the difference is the precautions. So with the posterior, like I said in my last videos, you cannot cross your legs, hip can't turn inwards, and you cannot bring your knee up to a 90-degree angle. And with an anterior hip replacement, you cannot put your legs so far back. So, like that. I don't know how else to explain it, like that. You can't bring your legs so far back. And you also can't spread your legs. So like if you wanted to, I don't know how to explain it, like a frog position, or like you're straddling something, you won't be able to do that because that's breaking the hip precautions. I mean, I think eventually you can do it, but after the procedure, you cannot break those hip precautions. So I was kind of glad I got the posterior because, things just work out the way that they're supposed to. And I believe in divine intervention. So I feel like this was meant for me. So if you guys are looking into a hip replacement, or if you guys are going to have a hip replacement soon, talk to your doctors and see which hip replacement is best for you. Now, jumping into my story. So when I went to go see my rheumatologist, I told them about my left hip and how it was starting to feel as painful as my right hip used to. And so they did the x-ray and they said I'll definitely be needing a hip replacement. So they referred me back to the orthopedics, the same people that did my right hip replacement. That's what I did. I went to go see the orthopedic. Now, this was all last year, so this is during the pandemic. So it wasn't really the same process as when I had my right hip. When I went to go see them for my left hip, they told me that they need approval for surgeries because of COVID. They weren't allowed to do any cosmetic surgeries. I'm in need of this hip replacement. So they told me that I'll most likely be approved. So they did their own x-ray just to make sure. They also did an x-ray on my right hip just to make sure everything was in place there. And of course, my right hip, they said, looked beautiful. And my left hip needed the hip replacement. They told me, come back, we'll schedule an appointment to come back and hopefully we'll get a response in regards to having the procedure done. So when I went back, they told me, okay, you're cleared for surgery. Now they didn't exactly give me a surgery date yet. Since, like I said, the pandemic, you were put on a waiting list. So they went ahead and did everything that they needed to do to make sure I was in good shape for surgery. So, along with my x-ray, they had me do labs. I think I needed like 14 vials of blood for my labs. They needed to know everything, my inflammation markers, my everything, anything you can think of. They did the blood work for, STDs, stuff like that, pregnancy. And I had to go get an EKG for my heart, and that came out totally normal, thank God. So, as far as my RA, I'm healthy. They said, okay, well, it seems like you're cleared for surgery. Oh, another thing was that I had recently went to the dentist and they told me that I was going to need clearance from the dentist, which I thought was weird. So after that, I had to go see my dentist. The dentist cleared me for surgery. And then I had another appointment to go to orthopedic. And I remember this day because it was the day of my birthday. I went to go see them and they said, okay, we have a surgery date for you, which was like, okay, I'm so excited. And they told me my birthday is August 31st and they told me September 18th. So last time with my right hip replacement, I had to wait 2 months, which I thought was quick anyways. But this time was 2 weeks and I was so shocked because since it was during the pandemic, I thought I was going to have to wait till like next year because they did tell me there was a waiting list. So I was like, what? Like 2 weeks, 18 days? And so I was excited because I was like, oh yes, relief. Because now that I had my right hip, I was able to do so much more. And I felt like once I had my left hip, I was going to be able to do even more. The only thing I was sad about was having to leave my baby boy, Charlie. I mean, he's fine with his dad. He was already 2. Yeah, he was already 2, but it was just sad having to leave him, So after they gave me the surgery date, they told me to stop taking all my medications a week before the surgery and to not eat after 12 a.m. So that's what I did. I stopped my medications a week before and I stopped eating at 11:58 p.m. I was telling Steven, like, I don't know when I'm gonna eat again. I don't know when I'm gonna eat good. So my last thing that I ate was a brownie. So I had to be at the hospital at 5 because my surgery wasn't gonna start until 7. On the way to the hospital is not local. It's 2 hours from where I live. So the whole ride to the hospital was hellacious, okay? It was so painful, and I know it was because I hadn't been taking my meds, but to sit down for those 2 hours was so painful. To walk to the car was so painful. When I got out of the car, it was hard for me to stand, and Steven couldn't go with me. So nobody was able to go with you. He couldn't even walk me to the front because they weren't allowing it. It was just a drop-off type of thing. When I finally got out of the car, it was hard for me to get up and get out. It was hard for me to walk through the doors. And the security guard came and he goes, "Oh, like, I see that you're struggling. Do you need a wheelchair?" But there was none handy right at that moment. He had to go, I don't know, to another, I don't know, he had to go somewhere and get it. So I told him, you know what, it's okay. I don't have the strength to stand. I'm just gonna see if I could just make it. It was on the 2nd floor and the elevators were steps from me. So I said, you know, I'll just go. And I got to the 2nd floor and I forgot how far, it wasn't even far, but at that moment I felt so far. So just having to walk to the office where I had to check in felt like it took forever because I was taking the smallest steps. Once I got there, the receptionist tells me, "We haven't started checking people in, but I see that you're struggling, so let me check you in first, and then you could just sit down and wait till the nurse comes and gets you." So I was so happy and I'm so glad that she understood. So she checked me in and I just waited for the nurse to come get me. And once the nurse came to get me, I kind of already knew the process of what I had to do. So what she did was she made me go pee because I had to pee in a cup, and then she had to do a pregnancy test because, you know, just in case I was pregnant, they didn't want to do the surgery. So after I peed in the cup, she took me back and I had to get undressed and I had to scrub myself. So they give you these little bags and they're wet wipes pretty much, but they have kind of like, a little bumpy design on them. I don't know what you would call it. So that way when you're scrubbing, it takes off your dead skin and you're kind of cleaning yourself. So after that, then I needed to put on the gown, put on the cap, and put the hospital socks on. So I did all that. I got in bed. Well, she actually had to help me because I was moving so slow. So she scrubbed my back and she scrubbed my hiney and she had to put my socks on. So after that, then she hooked me up to the little sticker heart things just to make sure my heart was okay. And then she hooked me up to the IV. And after that, she had me on the IV for a while. And then she came back in and she gave me the goods, you know, the drugs. So she gave me an anti-nauseous pill. She gave me oxycodone and they gave me gabapentin. And so after that, she said, okay, you're going to start feeling, you know, loose in a little bit. You'll probably fall asleep, but we'll wake you up when the doctor comes. And the anesthesiologist is going to come in and introduce himself. So the doctor came in and he explained to me the process of the surgery, which I already knew. You know, they're going to wheel me in and they're going to transfer me to the bed. And then the anesthesiologist is going to come and put me to sleep. And then they're going to replace my hip. So shortly after the doctor left, the anesthesiologist came and he came in with his resident because that hospital is a teaching hospital. They introduced themselves to me and they told me that they were going to do a basic anesthesia on me and they were going to make sure that I was okay throughout the whole surgery. You know, they're going to be checking my heart and making sure I'm okay. At the hospital, they make you feel really comfortable and make you feel like you're going to be taken care of. So I really appreciate that. Well, they wheeled me into the operating room. And I remember them transferring me over and it's so cold in the OR. And I remember shivering and they were asking me, you know, do you want extra blankets? They even put those little warming pads under my legs and on the sides of me. And I was thinking to myself, this doesn't even really matter because, you know, they're just going to rip it off me anyways and do what they need to do. Before the anesthesiologist put me under, I wished them all good luck and that I was trusting them. So after that, I woke up and I was in the recovery room. I remember waking up so groggy and so thirsty, and the nurse she ended up giving me water and I chugged that bad boy. Okay. I was in surgery for 8 hours. I couldn't believe how long I was in surgery for, because when I had my right hip, I think I was in surgery for 4. So it was like half the time. And like I said, it's a teaching hospital. So I was okay that I was in there for a long time because I felt like they took their time and they made sure that they wanted to do it right. But with all that anesthesia, like that one little anti-nauseous pill did not do diddly squat. Okay. I woke up and I was thirsty. So I drank all that water. And then after, I was throwing it all up. And then I was thirsty again. So the nurse gave me juice and I was drinking juice. And then I threw that up too. So I was throwing up like the exorcist over there. Okay. It was just coming out all over. It was nonstop. They had to give me a big bucket because those little bags that they give you, those little circle things with the bag hanging down, it was not doing anything. And so later on, I found out that I wasn't supposed to be drinking my water or juice that fast. I was supposed to be taking sips only. So it kind of threw my body into a shock. And so after I was done well, actually I was still throwing up on my way to my room. And I remember I was in the elevator and I was just throwing up in the elevator and there was 2 nurses there. And I remember telling them, I'm so sorry. Like, because I wouldn't want to be in an elevator with somebody who's throwing up. Like, I know it's their job, but it's gross, right? I mean, it's vomit, puke, gross. So I remember telling them when I was done throwing up, I'm so sorry. I probably had throw up all over my mouth, but I wanted to let them know that I was compassionate and I felt for them and But so when I finally went to my room, my RN came in, introduced herself, and told me, what medications I was going to be taking. So I think I was taking Tylenol. She wanted to give me Norco, but I don't like the way those medications make me feel. So I told her if she could just give me an anti-inflammatory along with the Tylenol. So she had to ask the doctor and they approved it. So they gave that to me. And they also gave me Benadryl at night so it would help me sleep. That's pretty much all I was on. And then they told me that the physical therapist was going to come see me in the morning. That night when I had my surgery, there was an earthquake in the hospital. I don't remember where it originated from, but there was an earthquake and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm alone. What am I going to do? So then after the earthquake happened, Steven called me. He's like, are you okay? And I told him, yeah. And I was telling him, I hope there's no more aftershocks. I hope it's not a big one. And so it was kind of scary, but I'm glad earthquake didn't happen when I was in surgery because holy hell, that would have been even scarier. So that night I was getting woken up every 2 hours to get my blood pressure taken. And I wasn't in that much pain. I'm not sure if it was because I still had the narcotics and a little bit of the anesthesia still in me. But I wasn't in that much pain. Morning after, my hemoglobin was low, so I needed another blood transfusion. And this time they only gave me 1 unit of blood. So after I had my blood transfusion, because I think it drips for about 2 hours. So after that, they waited a while and then they tested me again and it was going up. So it stayed up after they checked it the second time. So it wasn't until the afternoon that the physical therapist came and they got me up and walking. So if you guys see my previous video of my right hip replacement, you guys know that I had a problem with my hemoglobin and I ended up passing out during physical therapy. But this time it was so much better. And the physical therapist was telling me that he read my chart and he hopes that I don't pass out on him. And so I was like, geez, people don't forget these things. And so we were laughing about it. And I told him, I'm feeling better. I feel okay. I told him that if I feel like something's wrong, I would let him know. So after I went walking, which was good because I already knew what to do since, before with my right hip. I knew all the precautions, so they liked that and they liked that I still remembered. I pretty much got approved from the physical therapist to discharge me. So that night I was actually discharged from the hospital. So I was really only gone for like 2 days. I was so happy when I got released because Steven took me to In-N-Out because it was down the street. And it was like the best thing that I had eaten in those whole 2 to 3 days. Because, hospital food is gross, but the In-N-Out, I hit the spot. I don't even think I ate the whole thing. I think I ate like a couple bites and then I knocked out the whole ride home. And so when I woke up, we were home and Steven helped me get to, the bed. And my poor Charlie, because I was still nursing him, he wanted, to be back nursing because by the time we got home, I think it was like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And so Charlie was tired. He wanted to get nursed. And because I had pumped and dumped, I put him back to nursing. And it wasn't until February this year that I stopped nursing him. But I just felt so bad because I had left him for those 2 days and, he just wanted to be near me. It was kind of hard because, I had that incision and then I had to sleep with that damn cushion between my legs so I wouldn't roll over. And I don't know why it was so different this time, but the recovery was so painful. I was waking up like every 2 hours in pain. And poor Steven, he had to wake up too, and he had to help me. I had to either take the Velcro straps off from around my legs from the cushion, or he had to rub my foot or my knee or whatever was bothering me with some Deep Blue. And sometimes that didn't even work. I had to use like a CBD topical cream that would help. And like I said, I didn't really take the narcotics because I didn't like the way they made me feel, but I was in so much pain that I would take half of the oxycodone at night. And I was supposed to be taking 2 of those a day. I was still in pain even with that, but I didn't want to be taking them. So I kind of just like pushed through it. Not really, because there was times where I woke Steven up crying, saying how much pain I was in. And it was hard for us for the first, I want to say, week that I was home. Even after the week, I wasn't sleeping throughout the night. I was constantly waking up. But after the week, I had stopped waking him up at this point. So it was pretty painful this time around. And I don't know if it's because I had gotten older or because my pain tolerance wasn't as high as before because I was in so much pain with my right hip. I don't even know. It was a lot more painful this time. After a week, I was pretty okay-ish. Throughout the month, I was walking better. I kind of used my walker less because I felt like I didn't really need it. But Steven was telling me, you should use it just in case. You never know. What if something happens and you fall? He had a good point as to why I should use my walker, but because I'm stubborn, I didn't really use it. I mean, I used it when I would go to my checkups at my doctor's because I wanted to show them that I was a good patient, but I really wasn't. And so about a month after my surgery, I went to go see my physical therapist. And I still remembered the workouts that I had did from my previous hip replacement. So the physical therapist was happy about that. And I did pretty good with physical therapy. The only thing I did not accomplish in physical therapy was walking up the stairs. And I think it was because of my knees. So my knees are not that great. So walking up the stairs were hard for me. I couldn't do it. And he told me that since I have stairs at my house, I can practice at home. Just go up one stair and then back down, and then go up one stair and then back down. And then eventually I'll get the hang of it. By the time I stopped doing physical therapy, I still wasn't able to go up a flight of stairs with one foot right after another like that, like how we're supposed to. And it wasn't until about a couple months ago, like 6 months ago, I want to say, that I was able to finally go up the stairs one after another because I just kept practicing. And I still did my workouts at home because I wanted to build the muscle around my hip. And I know I was doing a lot of low impact because of my knees, but I was still building some type of muscle for my hip. And that's something that I would recommend to someone who just had their hip replaced, that even after physical therapy, still do the workouts at home because you're going to build that muscle that you haven't worked out in a while around that hip, and it's just going to grow stronger. So even if it's little by little, you make progress every day. So just keep pushing and just keep going. And eventually you'll be able to do what you hadn't done in a while. So like me, I was able to go up the stairs. I'm still trying to go down the stairs one foot after another because I can't do that yet. But my knees, like I said, my knees aren't in good shape. So it's kind of hard for me to go one after another because I don't have that much trust in my knees. So I'm still doing my workouts to where I'm hopefully building muscle around my knee and I can do it. So I'm hoping and praying that that day comes soon. And that's pretty much it for my left hip replacement story. And in my next video, I want to share some stories about the times that I have fallen. Because falling when you have rheumatoid arthritis is not the same type of falling when your joints are healthy. So I just want to share these stories and what I've done to recuperate. So if that's something you guys like to see, hit that notification button. Please like and subscribe to this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.